Hello, this is Max. The girl meets a guy who is being hunted and targeted and falls in love with him. You can subscribe to the channel after watching. It helps us a lot in realizing the content. The movie opens with a montage of young children holding up posters depicting their future aspirations. Among the kids aspiring to be doctors, lawyers, and astronauts, there is Martha, who confidently declares herself to be a T-Rex and playfully roars at the camera. Fast forward 23 years, and we find Martha preparing a special surprise for her boyfriend. She plans to dress alluring and cook a romantic dinner for him. However, her excitement turns into disappointment when he unexpectedly arrives home with another woman. When Martha confronts him about this situation, he attempts to manipulate her by gaslighting her and even suggests that she should join them for an adventure. Predictably, she decides to leave him, not before delivering a firm blow to his head with a bottle. Meanwhile, a well-dressed and charming man enters a hotel and knocks on a door. A wealthy woman answers, and he proceeds to inform her that she had hired a hitman to eliminate her husband, which he finds morally reprehensible. As an act of judgment, he playfully places a red clown nose on his face and shoots her outside the hotel. Across town, a British man had initially hired a team for a nefarious purpose but abruptly withdraws his support upon realizing their unprofessionalism. As events unfold, he overhears the unfortunate demise of the hired team as they attempt to carry out their mission against the first man inside the hotel. Instead of being shaken, he displays a somewhat amused and unfazed demeanor as he plots their deaths on a map, seemingly detached from the entire ordeal. Meanwhile, the first man skillfully eliminates the entire team that was pursuing him. Martha, deeply upset by her boyfriend's infidelity, resorts to drinking and exhibiting peculiar behavior. Her friend Sophie attempts to help and support her during this trying time. Sophie decides to take Martha to her workplace, a pet boarding house. While at the pet boarding house, Martha releases a cat that Sophie had cautioned her about. This leads to both of them sustaining cuts and injuries. In the aftermath, Martha apologizes to Sophie for the ordeal, and Sophie advises her to return home. Simultaneously, we check in with the man from the van, now known as Hopper, who receives an automated message revealing his new undercover identity as Leonard Knox. He is informed that the New Orleans police are at his service and that failure will not be tolerated due to his personal connection with the target. Hopper meets with a local detective named Gispatrick. On her way home, Martha stops at a store and unexpectedly encounters the hitman she had previously encountered. He wears a comical and colorful shirt and asks her out, complimenting her beauty. He claims to be on the run from international hitmen. His eccentric energy oddly complements Martha's personality, although he creeps her out. When Martha challenges him to explain in 2 words why she should spend time with him, he cryptically responds with "or else" and exaggerates a wink. The two of them grab some food and take a leisurely stroll in the park, engaging in playful banter and seemingly getting along well. Martha opens up to him about her past experiences with men who kept secrets from her, including her ex, a professor. She also shares her passion for dinosaurs and paleontology. As they converse, a hidden sniper takes aim nearby, the sole survivor from the earlier team that was eliminated. Francis, Martha's new friend and the hitman, displays remarkable senses and manages to dodge the sniper's bullets through some extraordinary instinctual response. They continue their evening with hours of dancing at a charming venue, engaging in deep conversation. Martha gradually warms up to Francis, and he appears genuinely interested in her, cracking jokes and wearing his red clown nose. Martha affectionately labels him the corniest guy she has ever met. Eventually, they share a kiss and head back to Martha's apartment. As they reach Martha's apartment, they are unexpectedly interrupted by the arrival of Sophie. To maintain a semblance of innocence, they move to Martha's bedroom, where Martha shows off her dragon-themed dress, and they cuddle together. When Martha wakes up the next morning, she finds a note from Francis along with a humorous drawing. In the note, he mentions that he'll see her again tonight. Meanwhile, Hopper and the police chief are trailing Francis, the hitman. Hopper reveals that the FBI has pursued Francis for 10 years, the CIA for 15, and himself for 5. The chief questions why they don't apprehend Francis immediately, but Hopper explains that it's too risky due to the potential harm to civilians and the potential for a messy confrontation. Back at Martha's home, she's in high spirits and decides to make pancakes for breakfast for her friend Sophie. Sophie, however, expresses concern about Martha's situation, particularly the fact that she doesn't even know the name of the man she spent the night with. considering it a significant red flag. Martha reassures Sophie that nothing happened beyond cuddling and sleeping together, prompting Sophie to humorously refer to him as Mr. Right. The sniper, Espinosa, contacts Hopper and vents his anger, expressing a desire for revenge against Francis. Hopper informs Espinosa that he knows everything about Francis because he trained him. For now, they decide to wait and assess the situation. Hopper switches to his undercover American accent as Detective Patrick joins him. The detective inquires about Hopper's past, highlighting his expertise in disguise and secret agent work, along with his prior association with Francis Munch and the CIA. Hopper directs Detective Patrick to focus on Munch, emphasizing that he himself has been missing for 12 years. Francis and Martha proceed to go on a proper date, which is briefly interrupted by Espinosa, who is determined to eliminate Francis. A confrontation ensues in an alley, leading to Francis reluctantly eliminates Espinosa to protect himself. Here he joins Martha and offers a vague explanation, stating that he had to deal with someone in the parking lot. Martha laughs, assuming he's joking. We are introduced to Vaughn and his partner Boone, who are also hitmen. Vaughn wants to eliminate his brother Richard from the picture, and because they are aware of Francis's reputation for targeting those who hire him, Vaughn convinces Richard to hire a hitman known for wearing clown noses to Carrie. After their dinner date, Francis prepares hot chocolate for Martha. Curious, Martha asks him about his name, to which he responds that he prefers not to share it because he dislikes it. She then inquires about his quick reflexes, particularly when he caught the condom boxes on the day they first met. Francis explains his belief in sensing the underlying currents beneath objects and how one can anticipate and float with them instead of resisting. He considers this ability a gift. To demonstrate, he playfully throws a knife above them and catches it, initially unsettling Martha. However, she becomes intrigued when he tosses a knife to her and she effortlessly catches it without harm. This shared experience excites Martha, and they later spend a night together. The following afternoon, Martha sits in the car while Francis leaves to meet a potential client on a bridge. Moon observes the meeting from a distance and reports to Vaughn that Richard, the client, did not personally come to hire Clownface, referring to Francis. Instead, the intermediary Richard sent to hire Francis refrained from disclosing the employer's identity. During the meeting, Francis eliminates the intermediary, and Martha witnesses this act of violence, leaving her frightened and shaken. She insists on being taken back home and requests some space to process the situation. Meanwhile, Richard is furious about the death of his employee and is perplexed by the turn of events. In response, he instructs Vaughn and Moon to assemble a group of 10 individuals and wait at Martha's house for Francis. Richard's intentions are clear. He wants them to eliminate Francis upon his arrival. Hopper, the FBI agent, arrives with Detective Patrick and decides to disclose the truth about Martha's latest boyfriend to her and Sophie. They reveal that his name is Francis Munch and that he was a former CIA operative, a highly trained killer who was considered one of the very best. Hopper explains that Francis primarily targets those who hire him for assassination, but does so because he adheres to a moral code that condemns murder. Hopper advises Martha to inform him whenever Francis contacts her. Martha and Sophie are left in shock and disbelief by this revelation, confronted with the truth about Francis's dark past and dangerous profession. Some time later, Martha receives a call from Francis, notifying her that he's planning to come over to see her. Concerned about her safety, she steps outside to speak with Hopper. She directly asks Hopper if she is in any danger from Francis himself. Hopper acknowledges that Francis is indeed a dangerous individual, recounting how he once eliminated an entire drug syndicate hired as hitmen. However, he implies that Francis's behavior toward Martha appears different, suggesting that she is valuable to him, and therefore she may also be an asset to Hopper's investigation. Martha leaves the conversation with Hopper and goes about her day. While Hopper continues his duty, Francis suddenly attacks him and knocks him unconscious. He then drags Hopper's unconscious body inside Martha's apartment. Once inside, Martha tells Francis that she believes he should leave. Although their passionate connection is evident, Martha attempts to understand and rationalize Francis's actions. As he explains his motivations and moral code, Martha ultimately decides to forgive him, deepening their emotional connection. In the midst of the chaos, Richard's men surround the apartment building. Detective Patrick contacts the unconscious Leonard Knox, Francis, about the situation, which Francis overhears. Sophie enters the room, and a heated argument ensues regarding Francis's actions and the FBI agent's well-being. Francis reveals that the agent is still alive but clarifies that he is not an FBI agent. Instead, he used to be a bad guy who worked alongside Francis after leaving the agency. When Francis decided to quit being a hitman, Hopper turned against him and attempted to kill him. Francis and Martha decide to make a run for it but are attacked by some men, including a guy named Steve, who has been hired by Richard. After a fierce fight, Francis gets injured by Steve. Vaughn also joins the confrontation, and Francis tries to intimidate them with a warning. However, as Vaughn starts discussing his involvement in the crime syndicate, Steve and Moon overpower Francis. They leave with Martha and tell Francis to come find her. Hopper eventually arrives on the scene, and he and Francis engage in a conversation about their shared past, highlighting how Francis used to be a cold-blooded murderer. Hopper gets distracted by Detective Patrick, whom he eventually eliminates. Seizing this opportunity, Francis escapes. Martha has been taken to the Cottigan residence, where preparations are being made for Francis's arrival. Martha provokes Vaughn, who becomes physically aggressive with her. However, she remains unfazed and even threatens to eliminate Vaughn herself if Francis doesn't do it. When Francis arrives with his clown nose, he engages in a friendly conversation outside with Steve before entering the house to confront the Cottigan brothers. Surprisingly, he decides not to kill them and leaves a gun in the room for them to settle their differences. Vaughn eventually retrieves the gun and eliminates Richard, which infuriates him, as he had hoped Francis would do the job. Francis reunites with Martha, and they prepare to leave. As they depart, Francis becomes aware of Moon, who had previously mocked his nose. Martha, however, expresses her appreciation for his unique feature. Meanwhile, Hopper catches up with them and attacks Francis. Francis instructs Martha to run, which she does, but Moon captures her and attempts to kill her. Martha manages to dodge Moon's attack and strikes him with a weapon. However, she is unable to bring herself to kill him. She then encounters Vaughn, who points a gun at her, demanding information about Moon. Martha taunts him, and when he fires the gun, her extraordinary reflexes enable her to dodge the bullet. She turns the tables on her attacker, using his own weapon against him and fatally shooting him. Outside, Francis and Hopper are locked in a fierce struggle, with both of them ending up handcuffed together. Francis reminds Hopper that he promised his girlfriend he wouldn't kill anyone. As Francis starts to walk away, Hopper calls out to him, not wanting to shoot him in the back. Francis listens, but before Hopper can pull the trigger, Steve eliminates him. Francis then informs Steve that there was a $5 million bounty on Hopper, making Steve a wealthy man. Martha joins Francis, and he notices her dilated pupils, asking if she got shot in the face. She confirms it but reassures him that she took care of the two men. They share a laugh and ask Steve to give them a ride to the hospital. 2 months later, Martha and Francis are seen vacationing in Vietnam, discussing their next destination. The movie takes a surprising turn when a hidden sniper, in communication with an unknown individual, prepares to shoot Francis. However, Francis cleverly holds up a sign that reads, "Where is the girl?" The sniper realizes he's in trouble as Martha, with a gun and her distinctive cat ears, suddenly appears, shooting him in the face. If you are interested in such films, please proceed to the next video on the screen, and also share your thoughts about this film in the comments. Give us a like and subscribe. Goodbye.